Right. Well, I've known Dai for what must be not far off 25 years now, 23, 24 years. And I first met you when we used to do a Friday night outreach on Queen Street, and a group of us would go down and look to engage and to witness to people outside nightclubs and cinema queues. It was late at night. And I used to think Cardiff was busy during the day, but it was busy in a more sinister way at night, alive with folks going to these strange places. But I remember meeting you there, part of the team. I remember one night just seeing you sat, looking, gazing at the lost people, and clearly a heart full of compassion for them. It's no surprise to me. I felt at the time, here's a guy who God is going to use in future years. You've been used in many ways and still are being used by the Lord in reaching people with the gospel. But let's not start there. Let's go back to your childhood and tell us a little bit about family life and being brought up in Pontypool.
Yeah, so I'm a valley boy from the town called Pontypool. You might have heard of Big Pit, it's up near there. Pontypool's a bit of a dump. But when I grew up, it was like the centre of the known universe to me. I remember coming to Cardiff for the first time and just being blown away that there's more than one McDonald's anywhere. Because we had to go 5 miles from Brown for even one McDonald's. You had one on Queen Street and one on St Mary's Street, and it just literally blew my mind. So a very small town boy. Went to church as a kid. My parents were Christians, but as saying to Andy earlier, my dad was he's a very kind of unique bloke in many ways. He's got a very unique kind of Christian faith. He's not really normal. He does mad things. He always used to like be into extreme sports. Didn't really like doing normal churchy things, but he would jump off mountains with a parachute, or he'd go disappearing into the hills, climbing or caving, or just go off on adventures. And grew up like kind of getting after my dad a little bit. My mother was like the polar opposite, sweet, lovely. You wouldn't even raise your voice, but very gentle, very full of Jesus, and very prayerful. So this mad kind of parenting really. This nutty dad and this proper like sweet mum.
And brought up going to church. Did you enjoy going to church week in and week out?
No, not at all. Why would you if you didn't know Jesus? It's just rubbish, isn't it? It was a chapel, not a church. You know, so like the organs, like there's 33 pipes on the organ. I checked every Sunday. Yeah, 33 pipes. And yeah, I just didn't enjoy it at all. So I was a very rebellious kid. So when I got to a high school age, my parents could tell I wasn't really down with it, and I'd rather be out with my mates doing other things. And rather than forcing me to go to church when I didn't want to be there, they gave me the option, which was quite a brave thing to do for a kid like me. So yeah, I went to church till I was about 13, regularly, 12, 13, then I started to have much more of a kind of an infatuation with street life and being out with my mates on the streets and going to church.
Okay, so by the time I met you at the age of 18, you were out and out for the Lord, looking to witness to lost people. So something happens then between the age of 13, when you're quite rebellious, and coming to Cardiff. When were you converted then, and how did that happen?
So I was 15 years old. It was in the summer holidays between year 10, what was year 10, year 11, is 4th year and 5th year when I was a kid. Yeah. I still can't get my head around this year 7 to 13 nonsense. So yeah, it was in that summer anyway, between before my last year and my main GCSE year. And a friend of mine invited me to go on a youth camp in the summer, which I'd never been on before. I'd never been away to do anything, to do churchy stuff. I'd been away to do other things, like sporty things, but never a churchy thing. So I said I'd go with him, but only because there was girls there. I wasn't even remotely interested in learning about God or Jesus. I knew all the answers to those questions. I'd always believed in a kind of God. I imagine a lot of you guys might have grown up believing in some sort of God, even if you didn't know God, especially if you grew up going to church. So I was never questioning that. I just didn't care. It's like, yeah, God's real. I think about it when I'm older, when I'm going to die or whatever. But it was at that camp that God just literally invaded my life, and I wasn't looking for him, but I think he was looking for me, and he gripped me up.
Was it a particular sermon that you heard, or was he speaking to other Christian youngsters?
There was 2 young guys from Bridgend whose lives really impacted me, because they were Christians and they weren't idiots, and that was quite unique to me. I thought Christians were generally idiots. I didn't like what I saw of a lot of Christian people, because they seemed to be a bit odd, a bit weird, and I didn't want to be like that. But these 2 guys, they were good solid Welsh boys, good at rugby, you know, good banter. I could sort of see myself being a bit more like that, so that helped.
Yeah.
But there's also this really old dude called Owen Jones who was the preacher for the week. He just faithfully opened the Bible every week, and it was like one of them weird camps. I don't know if you've ever been on a Christian camp. It's like, it was breakfast for, you know, it's Bible for breakfast, 11's his Bible, go and do some activities and back to the Bible. It wasn't a bit much, like, I ain't gonna lie, I was like, flipping out, what is this? But after the main sessions, you go into your little dormitories, and you'd have a dorm officer who was like, you know, back in those days, you could actually have a guy staying in the room with the kids. You could do that now, it's against the law, isn't it? Or like, against best practice at least. But Dave was there, he's a good guy, and he was just asking loads of questions about the Bible. And I generally started to really listen, because although I wasn't looking for God, I really hated myself. I'd done some messed up things, even by the age of 15. There's things I felt a real deep guilt about. I don't know if you guys can ever relate to this, right? But one of the things I got a really clear memory of as a teenager, before this point, was going to bed at the end of the day, thinking back about things I'd done on that day, or in the week before, or the month before, and just not being able to shake it off. And I was one of them kids that I needed other people around me, or needed the television on, or needed some kind of stimulus to not be left alone with my thoughts. Because as soon as I was left alone with just my thoughts, I didn't like myself. In fact, I would go so far as to say I hated myself. And guilt and shame like haunted me. Everywhere I would go, I'd be aware that something wasn't right, but that just manifested itself as real anger and real rage and just getting into trouble rather than repentance. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know what repentance was really. But that week, this old dude, Owen Jones, I'll tell you a funny story about Owen in a minute as well, but this old dude, Owen Jones, just helped me to understand from the Bible that Jesus took the beating that I was kind of giving myself. Like, I used to beat myself up all the time for things I'd done. Anyone's ever struggled with self-harm or those sorts of things? That whole desire to punish yourself for things that you don't like about yourself is like the root of kind of how I felt. It wasn't self-harm, but I'd punch walls, I'd punch windows, I'd lash out, I would hurt myself, like, you know, emotionally, not let myself off the hook. And this guy just helped me to realise that Jesus took the beating, so I didn't have to take the beating anymore. He was wounded so I could be forgiven, and he basically said, this is how you get forgiveness, this is how you get right with God.
So despite you hearing the gospel many times as a youngster, that's the first time you really understood the gospel?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I would have used it all the time as a kid, and I knew all the Bible story answers, and you know, I could have told you what the gospel was, but it didn't mean nothing to me.
Because there'll be youngsters here, you see, in that position who seem to know it, but yet don't know it. So yeah. What made the difference?
I guess it was just my time. I think God just said enough, like, and it's mad, like, because it's just total kindness. He didn't have to save me. Like, I was totally responsible for my life. I can't blame anyone. Some people, they can blame poverty, or they can blame abuse, or they can blame drugs, or different things that happened to them for why they behaved the way they did. I was just a wretch, like, and it was all my fault. Like, I knew it was my fault, and so that's why I hated myself so much. I couldn't blame anyone else apart from myself, so I blamed myself.
So you understood the gospel then? This particular, was it a night or a morning or?
It's a night. Yeah.
So you understood. Did you feel anything?
I just felt like I had to get my life right with God, and I had to do it now. Like today.
Any emotion involved?
Yeah, like, I was crying. And I was crying two sorts of tears, yeah. I was crying like the sorts of tears because I stopped long enough, because I was really hyperactive, right? I was like, back in the day when they put things in orange squash, like tartrazine, they made kids hyperactive. Like, my mum used to joke that I was just a tartrazine kid. I was just always like, like all the time. I probably was on some sort of spectrum, I probably still am, but I was definitely on some sort of spectrum back then. Yeah, and so I never stopped long enough to like face up to my life, ever. I was just always doing something or trying to fill my time and my mind with stuff, but I stopped long enough to be like, this has to stop, this has to change, and if what he's saying is true, then I want it, like, and I want it back.
So you converted at the age of 15, did you notice a difference in your life? Did Jesus make a difference to you?
Changed me overnight, bam, like, you know. And some of the change was like, you know, the change was dramatic, it was instant. Like, the minute I surrendered to God, I felt clean on the inside, like, I felt forgiven, and all the things I hated myself for, I literally I experienced it taken them out of me. It felt like I'd been cleaned on the inside. It was mad.
I think you said earlier, like a spiritual vacuum.
Like a spiritual vacuum cleaner. Just setting up, I realised how much guilt there was in my life. loads of guilt. And he just took it away from me in a moment. And I knew on that instance, like, you know, that my life had changed. But I did go a bit weird after that. I kind of pendulum swung from this little, like, you know, lunatic that didn't care about Jesus to like, right, I'm all in for church. I bought a tie, silk tie, little silk tie, little waistcoat. Because I thought, because I was a chapel boy, innit? I thought that's what you had to wear on a play. So I bought all the clothes you had to wear as Christians, and you know, I was buying all these Christian books, and you know, playing songs on my guitar. I wrote a song called Northern Conquerors, based on Romans 8, but my man thought it was Northern Conquerors because I couldn't sing it properly. So, you know, I was doing all these, like, I was as Ned Flanders as it got. I went like from that to that. But I did change. I had a potty mouth. That my language changed overnight. Like, it didn't even take me a couple of days to get rid of the F word. I used to use the F word as punctuation, like. Do you know what I mean? That just changed. And things just like started to overnight started to change, but I'm still on a trajectory of change, but the change in that moment was dramatic. Yeah. My mother almost didn't recognise me when I come home, do you know what I mean? I was different, you know, because that's what God does, guys. He changes you. It's not like, it's not theoretical, he actually changes lives. You know
do you regret any of that change? Would you go back?
I regret the silk tie for Wales, like, I regret the clothing change, big time.
Did you lose any friends?
Yeah. Some of them I had to lose though. There's a proverb that says bad company corrupts good character. And I had a lot of bad company, so I had to lose some of my friends. Do you know what I mean?
Did you purposely put them to one side, or did they leave you?
There's a bit of both really. It's one of them things where as soon as I stopped wanting to do the things that they were doing, I naturally started to slip out of the group a little bit anyway. But I was actually quite happy for that because I didn't want to be like that anymore anyway. I had no desire to be going down those paths anymore. So, yeah. I had a couple of friends, you know, but not loads, to be honest with you. But I don't want to sound cheesy, but I had Jesus, and that literally was better than anything else. Like, he was literally, you know, to this day, like, just reading the Bible and hearing the voice of God and like following Jesus is still the best thing. And like, you know, I have got good friends now. I've got a beautiful wife and 4 kids, so I've got people around me. But still, every day, the first voice I want to hear is the voice of God. Yeah. It never is the first voice. I've got too many loud kids, but you know, I wish it was the first voice. Do you know what I mean? Still,
truly awesome. Okay, look, you come to Cardiff at the age of 18. What brought you to Cardiff then?
So I came to be a student. I grew up in the 90s when you were told that if you want to do anything in with life, you have to go to university. I actually disagree with that now. But I was also told I was too thick to go to a proper university. So I wanted to do history in Swansea because I really liked history. But my school said you're never going to get those grades. Aim low. So I did. And I came to Cardiff. And I didn't go to university. I left the university. So I came to the Cardiff Institute of Higher Education.
All right.
To do a degree in recreation and leisure, which was great. So it meant I got a tracksuit with my name on it.
Did you play much sport as a youngster?
Yeah, loads. I would play squash for Wales. I played hockey for Cwmbran. I trampolined for my university. Check that out. I trampolined until they made me wear lycra, then I quit. Because you know, while they let you do trampolining in shorts and a t-shirt, I was down. As soon as they said, "Like, put this spandex on," I was like, "See ya." But you know, my team won the Scottish University Open back in 1996, I think it was.
So you played squash for Wales as well.
That's
quite a high standard.
It was quite high.
Are you still playing these days?
Because the ankles, the skateboarding problems, I had to stop playing.
When did you start skateboarding?
18. Well, I started as a teenager and then started skating properly at 18.
Quite a few accidents, I believe.
Loads of accidents.
How many bones have you broken?
Most of them. 3 operations on my left leg. The funniest one I did, right? I don't know if you guys can't remember, but at Queen Street used to have an escalator going downstairs from Queen Street into the arcade.
It did.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried riding down the handrail on my skateboard one night when this escalator was off, and I snapped my little finger so it was sticking off the side of my hand like that. So I had to go. I was quite ashamed to go to hospital. I tried popping it back in, but it was clearly wonky, so I went to hospital. And they gave me a palm cast for my little finger. It was the most like shameful, like, you know. I had this little cast, a little thing jutting out from my little finger, so it's always like I had my little pinky sticking out. And it got even more shameful. So when they said, right, you have to do physiotherapy when the palm cast was over. For 6 weeks I had to go to the CRI every week, every Wednesday, sit in a room on my own, like a classroom, and they'd give me a ball of plasticine, the same exercise every week. I had to roll the ball of plasticine into a long sausage, chop the sausages, and roll it back into a ball again. And it was just like, I just sat there in my room going, this is what skateboarding has done for me. Like,
sat here making plasticine sausages with my little finger.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So yeah, but I broke that, I broke my ankle, snapped my cruciate ligament. The worst was my dislocation of my right elbow when I was in Chelmsford. That was horrible. I got knocked out with that one, as in like they had to knock me out to put it back in. I woke up with my arm in a full cast, so it was horrible.
Wow.
So yeah, I did a lot of damage to myself.
After your college course, you become what's known as a detached youth worker.
Yeah.
What led to that?
I've always got on better with people that don't go to church. Even now, like I'm more comfortable speaking in Park Prison than in my own church, which I'm a pastor of. Like I'm just better at speaking to people that don't do church. So like I've always had that kind of desire to share the gospel with people that didn't want to know about Jesus or had never heard about Jesus, and so I guess that's what my heart was, because people are good at people like you are great at doing churchy stuff. But I know you didn't always used to be like that. You used to be an evangelist as well. But I always thought there's people that are doing that. But I'm never going to do that. I'm doing it now, anyway. So you know, live and learn. But at the time, I thought I could never do that. And no one's going to take me seriously. I've never been to Bible college. Still never been to Bible college. Which is why I still can't believe when people take me seriously as a pastor.
Well, I'm
But
saying.
yeah, you
Never been to Bible college?
Yes, mate. High five on that. The two of us. That's great.
I don't think Paul went, I did, the apostle.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No. Amen. So yeah, all the cream. Yeah. So anyway, so I wanted to share with the gospel people that didn't go to church, and so I just started working for Highfields Church when I graduated, just working with kids in the community who were wrapping spliffs on the wall outside my house. Yeah. And then came to St. Mellon's Estate, so I worked with kids who were doing a lot more than wrapping spliffs outside my house. They were burning cars and stuff. And then
Yeah, you lived on one of the most, well, some of the most notorious streets, Crumlin Drive, and
yeah, it was wild though. And it's not calmer now, but back in the 90s, when you could steal a car with a spoon rather than you having to keep it was man. And the funny thing was, because we had this double-decker bus project, I had a key to open the padlock for the field up on Crumlin Drive to get our double-decker bus in. What I didn't realise is it was a key for every council padlock in East Cardiff. And the police got wind that I had this key, right? So I get phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning from the police saying, Dai, we got guys in a car on Tesco Field, we got to get in or they're going to burn the car. Can you come down? Any random field between Tremorva and St. Mellon's, I'd have to go down and open the blinking door for the police because no council work was ever going to answer their phone at 2 o'clock in the morning, but they knew I would.
So you met your wife, Michelle, I think, at this period as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
She was on the double-decker bus project as
That's
well.
Right. Yeah, she was.
And 4 kids have come along since then.
Yeah.
You have about 6 years on the estate, St. Mellon's estate.
2001 until 2007. So yeah, 6 years in St. Mellon's.
And then quite a significant move then back to Pontypool.
Back at the Pontypool to a council estate called Trevethin, yeah, which is like...
There's no church there.
No.
So the Lord calls you to plant a church.
Yeah, that's where I got it. That's why I became a pastor. Like, I didn't want to be a pastor. I wanted to tell people about Jesus. And when God said to go and do it in Trevethin, I was like, flip, there's no church to take them to, so I guess I need to start a church as well. So I kind of planted a church, not by accident, but that was what was kind of needed. Otherwise, when telling people about Jesus, they might respond in some way, and then they just left to their own devices. And if I hadn't had a church to be discipled in when I was following Jesus, I never would have grown as a Christian. I never would have learned what it was to follow Jesus. And so I need the church. So I thought they needed the church as well. So
tell us something about that church plant then. You go up in 2007, you leave in 2013, I think. No, a little bit later, it was in 2016.
Yeah, 9 years ago.
And now there's a healthy, vibrant church there, just down from that estate.
Yeah.
Tell us something of the story then, how it grew.
What, the church?
Yeah.
I'm just a massive believer in living life among people, and not sort of like, I don't think church is an event to invite people to. It the call of the gospel is to go and share the gospel with people, and to this day, the best opportunities I've had to talk to Jesus or share about Jesus has been by going onto their patch and talking to them. That's a detached youth worker mindset. But so I set up like a youth club on the estate called Trevolution, and used to teach them how to DJ and try and teach them how to rap and stuff like that. And we connect with them in that way. But then my wife would just be doing the same thing, but like a babies group. You know what I mean? She'd go to the mums and tots groups, and she was just meeting women there. Check this for a mad thing out. The first person we baptised in Trevethin was a girl who had grown up on another council estate in Cwmbran, no Christian background at all, but had grown up going to a church youth club, or kids club, picked up every week by, on a minibus by a sweet Christian lady, and that bus would get smashed up, it would get bricked, they'd have all sorts of abuse, like, they'd get chased off the estate. But this woman kept turning up and picking up these kids, and she was one of the kids that would get picked up. And the minibus driver was my mum.
All right.
So like my mum was like one of the most formative people, and the most sweet, innocent mum, getting bricked and cussed out by all these kids in Thornhill. So so it was just meeting people where they were at and sharing, opening our lives, opening our home, sharing Christ with them.
So 9 years or so there, vibrant church growing, and then you come back to Cardiff, and here now in Cardiff, 3 wonderful works going on. There's Redeemer Church, which you're pastor. There's a Red Community, and there's a coffee roasting and selling company, Manumit. What leads you to leaving that vibrant situation then, estate in Pontypool, to come back to Cardiff?
Yeah, so I had a bit of a mad experience of God, and not everyone has experiences like this, I don't think, but there's no reason to say that people can't have this sort of experience. But one day I was speaking at a youth event in Blackwood in the Valleys, and I had a vision of a prostitute in Cardiff. Not a dodgy vision of a prostitute in Cardiff. She was walking around the Magic Roundabout in Splot. This is back in 2012. And I audibly heard the voice of God shouting at me, "Go and rescue her, go and rescue her."
An audible voice?
Audible voice, go and rescue her.
Now.
Like, just like that, but louder. Go and rescue her, go and rescue her, go and rescue her. And I just burst into tears because I'd never experienced anything like that, and I still haven't to this day since experienced anything like that. And it just shook me to my core. I was sobbing, just like, what the heck is that about? And I thought God was giving me a word that night a girl was going to be needing rescue, so I drove to the Magic Roundabout that night to see if there's anybody that needed rescue, and there wasn't. I felt like a right plan. But I was like, it was so real. Even now, like, we're talking 7 years ago now, it was still so real that, like, I knew I had to take it seriously. So me and my wife started praying and talking about it, and one thing led to another. We decided that we should find out what was happening to minister and reach out to women caught up in prostitution and human trafficking in Cardiff, and support where we could. And if there was any gaps, then we should see if we could do anything about it. And when I spoke to a woman, a friend of mine who works with prostitutes in Cardiff, I said, "What's the biggest need for women who are trapped in the sex industry in Cardiff?" She said, "Well, there's plenty going on, like, of outreach, people on the front line reaching out to those people and helping them, and there are safe houses and refuges on the other end. But what's lacking, what's missing, is a church community where when we're ministering to them, on the weekend or whatever, or in the evenings, we can say, if you need help, these are good people, go and connect with them." So I said, "What, like a church?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, is there a church in that Splot Adamstown area where you would feel comfortable pointing them to?" She said, "No." So I said, "Well, maybe I should come and plant a church." And she said, that's what's needed. Even now, that's why our church doesn't meet in the morning or the evening. We meet at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because she said that's the best time of day between shifts for the sort of people that vision is all about. So that's why we meet at the time of day that we do.
So tell us briefly about these 3 areas then. Let's start with Red Community. You've outlined something of it already. It started with a prayer meeting, I believe.
Yeah, so I didn't know nothing about any of these issues, so I wanted to get educated. And I also felt the best place to start anything, if God's telling you to do some things on your knees and have your humble dependence on Him, rather than thinking I've got all the answers. So we committed the whole of 2013 to prayer, and once a month, every month, we prayed on a Friday night, got different speakers in to tell us different things, and then just prayed. And so that grew into a charity called Red Community. That charity is now growing, and we've got actually an amazing project called Embrace, which is a befriending project where we train up Christians to get alongside survivors of human trafficking who are trying to rebuild their lives in Cardiff, and just be their friends, like in community, take them out for coffee, take them to the cinema, the museum, help them with paperwork, whatever, just being friends to them. And that's just been I think maybe 45 women have been befriended in Cardiff and Newport in the last couple of years through that project, which is amazing.
And is that men and women who are involved in that befriending, or is it mainly women?
It's mainly, I'd say if there's been 45, I would say that maybe 2 or 3 have been male.
Right.
Although there are a lot of male survivors, but they don't want friends. There's a bit more shame there, I think, for the men who are survivors of that sort of stuff, and they would rather be, sorting themselves out. But certainly, like, you know, one of my best friends now is a male survivor of trafficking. I can tell you his story. He's now a member of our church. He came to faith last year. This year, actually, we baptised him in the Gower in the summer. He was, I don't want to traumatise anyone. Actually, I'll be careful how I say this story, but he was orphaned in Vietnam, trafficked as a child into the UK and forced to grow cannabis for 5 years as a child in different houses around the UK before he was able to escape and start to rebuild his life. But you know, it's a horrendous story. And there's plenty of stories like that. There's a lot of people trafficked into those sorts of situations. So you know, there's that story of the Vietnamese lorry a few weeks ago, the Vietnamese guys in the lorry, 39 people died. That's exactly the way that his entry came in, but the hands of traffickers not willingly.
Yeah. Well, our host tonight, Tam, this is her home, was telling us her story a couple of weeks ago, and she was from Vietnam and was one of the boat people, her family. And so really the lorry brought all that back to
one of the guys from Highfields used to be one of the elders there, was one of the boat people as well. It's your brother? Oh, there you go. Same family. Praise the Lord. There you go.
It's a big family. It's a big family.
What a big family.
But really, coming from Red Community, you've got...
Hung hasn't got a pool table.
Has he? From Red Community, there's also Manumit, which is like something to help folks.
Yeah, so, I mean, I want to say that bit first actually. With the Red Community Befriending Project, we started getting a lot of the people who were befriending the survivors saying to us, these women just really want to rebuild their lives. They've been through all sorts of horror, but like they want to start getting back into work and getting their lives back on track. But the thought of a 40-hour-a-week 9 to 5 is just too much for them. Is there anything we can do to help them start to rebuild their lives in a more sort of like caring and a more sort of appropriate environment? And so we set up a business specifically to employ people who've been trafficked called Manumit Coffee Roasters. So we employ survivors of trafficking to roast coffee.
Why Manumit?
Manumit, so I googled, or put in the online thesaurus the word emancipation. Which means, you know, which is kind of like to liberate, innit? So I put emancipation into this online thesaurus and had all these other words that came up. But one of the words that came up was manumit. I was like, that's a weird word. What does that mean? It's an old English word that means to set slaves free. So if I was your slave and one day you said, I'm going to set you free, you would manumit me. And then when I was young, there was a nightclub in Ibiza called Manumission, which I didn't know what that meant, but that's the act of setting people free. But it's a cool word because no one knows what it means, and then you tell them about what the coffee's all about without even like, you know.
So the sun manumits is manumit indeed.
Exactly that. Yeah. So Manumit was set up by myself and one of the other trustees of Red Community to offer employment, and it's growing.
And the coffee we drink on Sunday in the chapel and at our house at open lunch is Manumit coffee. So whether it tastes good or not doesn't matter, right? It's a good cause. You enjoy it. And then, excitingly, Redeemer Church, which is really why you came to plant a church.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it's a wonderful... I mean, I looked on your website, and where it says welcome, you've got 15 different languages saying welcome.
Yeah.
That reflects the church, and I guess.
It does, yeah. So we're a church... When we moved to Cardiff, to Adamsdown, I remember we opened the car door one day and there's just like, there's domestics happening in this language and people shouting in that language and conversations in that language. And Michelle, my wife, just said, Dai, if we plant a church here that looks like us, we've completely failed. Do you know what I mean? It's got to look like the community that we're in. And so we just deliberately didn't try and attract people like us, we just wanted to attract whoever was around. And so we've ended up, you know, the first Sunday that we did a house church, there was me, my wife and my kids, there was a Ugandan family, there was 2 Syrians who had fled the war in Syria, had walked to the UK. It took them 7 months to get to the UK on foot. There was an Egyptian lady who was translating for the Syrians, and there was an Indian dude and his English wife. So it was like, that was kind of the first Sunday, and it's just been like that ever since. So a couple of weeks ago, my wife did a prayer meeting in church and said, right, let's find out what countries are present in our room. We've now got a church building, and there's about 45 people that are present, and there's 20 different nations represented from 45 people. So it is nuts, like, and it's hard to preach in that context because, you know, half the people don't understand what you're on about. But at least you can't complain either. That's a good thing.
Right. Look, there's a lot more I could ask you, but we've got much of your story now, a lot more to fill in perhaps, but I wonder if that provokes any questions from you folks here. Anything you'd like to ask Dai, qualify things that he said or expand on certain areas? If not, I can ask you one or two more things as well, Dai, but anything from you folks or from you, Lewis?
What were you like at rapping?
I've heard him perform live.
Yeah.
I was sick, man.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Like, I stopped rapping when I reached my 40th birthday, because when you're white and you rap and you're past 40, it just says midlife crisis in, like, you know, bold neon letters. But I don't know. I mean, if you ever heard any of my stuff, you can tell me what you think. I mean, I was never going to be as good as some rappers, but I only got into rapping to try and communicate the gospel to kids in St. Mellons. We had this bus with a sound system on it. The kids loved their garage, or the grime. It developed into his garage when it first started.
I've heard this term before, garage and grime.
Yeah.
Do you want to expand on that? Just, I'm learning things. I've learned about hip hop.
Yeah, that's right. So, hip hop is and rap is probably
Well, I know that now.
is the origins in America, started in the 70s and 80s, but then the British kind of tried to put their own stamp on it. So garage was kind of a combination between hip hop and R&B.
R&B, rhythm and blues.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And so it was, but it had it's about 130 beats per minute. It was a bit faster than hip hop, and it was kind of like slowed down drum and bass a little bit. Drum and bass was what I was better at DJing, and that's still a thing. But then garage was kind of a fun party kind of like thing. So it was all about, yeah, it's quite a summery Ibiza, Iron Apple kind of sound. But then the kind of kids on the estates in Britain started to make it sound a bit more kind of ghetto, a bit more druggy, and it became grime, which was a lot more kind of like, if I don't like, I'm going to stab you and your mum kind of lyrics. And it was just it all really savage, which is why it's called grime, because it was just like, it's just grime.
Pretty grim.
Yeah, it's pretty grim. Yeah, so, but the kids in St. Mellons loved that, and so we used to sing after you know, at the end of our night on the bus, where we say, right, let's talk about try and do something like this.
Right.
And they just didn't want to listen, funnily enough. So we started doing rap battles with them instead, and they'd listen to the rap battles.
Rap their rubbish, and you rap the Christ.
Yeah, and so I go home and try and write some lyrics to try and rap about Jesus, and we just sort of have these late night battles on Crumlin Drive on the bus. So that's.
But that would communicate.
Absolutely, you know, and they, you know, in the end, they actually wanted CDs of my lyrics and stuff as well. So, yeah.
Can we hear things online these days, or is it all gone, or is it?
There is, I think I've got a Noise Trade page still. If any of you have heard noisetrade.com, I think I still got my stuff on there. Yeah, Noise Trade. It's old. I mean, it's not quite MySpace, which these guys are definitely not good at. But I think I did 2 EPs and 1 album. The album was the last thing I did, and I did the album after I left St. Mellons and moved back to the Valleys, and I decided I was just gonna, because I knew my time was short. I was almost 40. I thought, right, I'll do one more thing and then I'll retire. So I did. The album was called Lyrical Liturgy, and it was basically my take on a church service with rap tracks. So there was like a kind of an opening prayer, there was a sermon, there was a response prayer, there was a mission slot, but like all as rap lyrics. That was called Lyrical Liturgy. That was the album. Then the other stuff was more kind of a lot more.
Can I ask Dai a question, please? Do you have to be of a certain character or personality, have a certain, to reach out to certain people? Say, you know, you said you felt you didn't want to reach out to churchy people. So, would somebody, like your mum, for instance, you said was really sweet and gentle.
She's a ninja.
Could she?
She got under the radar in ways I never could.
So could she reach out to somebody who was a drug addict? Do you, can you adapt, or can you just?
I think.
Do you need to be?
To me, it's a matter of obedience. If God tells you to do something, you do it. And it's I read the Bible as it's often the most unlikely characters that God uses, not the likeliest characters that God uses. And my wife is not like me at all. She's a bit more like my mum, quiet and sort of polite and pleasant and stuff, sweet. And she, you know, she could minister. She had guys, you know, in St. Melons, proper hardened lads. You know, they'd be crying as she ministered to them. Like, you know, it doesn't take a certain it actually does take a certain sort of person. It takes an obedient sort of person. That's not saying that everybody has to go and minister to roughnecks, but if God puts something on your heart, you go and do it. I'll tell you a cool story about my mum, because she's my gospel hero. One day, she came home from, she'd gone from Pontypool to Cardiff on the train, and she came home, she was actually crying. I was like, "Ma'am, what's up?" Like, and she said, through her tears, like she said, there was a gang of teenagers on the train, got on in Pontypool, and they were really rowdy. And I really felt God say to me, "Go and share the gospel with them," and I just couldn't do it. I was too scared. And then they got off the train, and I'm just, you know, I'm so sorry about that. I'm just really upset that I let that opportunity pass me by. I remember trying to encourage her, and we prayed about it. And the next day she came home and she was buzzing. I said, "What's up, you know?" And she was like, "They got back on the train again." And this time I didn't, you know, and I didn't, you know, didn't miss the opportunity. And I shared, you know, I talked to them, and like that was my mum, like, do you know what I mean? And it's because like the Lord nudged her, and she's like, and I think if God nudges you to do stuff, then you do it, and you don't try and. I mean, there's never a bad time to share the gospel with someone, but I don't think it's different strokes for different folks, isn't it?
Anything else?
I think if what advice would you give people here who are Christians and want to like progress, and who are not and they're seeking but you know need answers? What advice would you give?
Just so it's people who aren't Christians yet, or people who are Christians and want to, I just wondering how that works. Like which one?
Both, I think.
Both. Right. If you're here and you don't follow Jesus, my advice is this: follow Jesus and start today. Because the world promises you all sorts, and it's just lies. And the only place where you're going to find forgiveness, you're going to find unconditional love, you're going to find acceptance, you're going to find grace for your mistakes, you're going to find hope when things are dark, is in Christ. You haven't got to wait till your life measures up, or you're perfect enough, or you look like Andy to be a Christian. Like, you know, you come as you are, you come with your questions, your doubts, your murkiness, your past. You lay it all on the table and you say, "God, if you still want someone like me, then this is who I am. I'm sorry for my sin. I repent, I turn from that, and I turn and I trust you to forgive me and to lead me forwards." Do it today, innit? Like, today's the day of salvation. I became a Christian when I did, because that was my time. That's when God told me to do it, and I couldn't have come a day earlier, because I didn't, you know, until then. It's about God moving in your heart. If you feel God stirring in your life today, respond to Him today. If you are a young person who's a Christian and you find it hard, I've got a couple of things I want to say to you, and it's like genuinely as sincere as I can be. Number one, embrace the fact that you're a weirdo. Like, the worst thing in the world is Christians trying to be like something they're not. Like, you're never going to measure up to the world standards if you're a Christian, because the way of Christ is narrow, it's hard. The world doesn't want your Jesus, but it's still the path to life. He is still worth laying your life down for. If you pursue popularity in the world, then you're never going to be, you know, you're going to live with one foot in one camp, one foot in the other camp, and it's just going to be painful. So, like, I would just encourage you to embrace the fact that to be a Christian is to be weird, and I've actually learned to embrace that. Like, and don't care what the world thinks, care what Jesus thinks. Like, I know for a fact that there are people who look at my life and they think I'm a joke, they think I'm a liar, they think I'm a hypocrite, they think I'm all sorts of things because I'm a Christian. But I know that God looks at me and He sees me as His beloved Son. You know, I'm as loved by the Father as Jesus is loved by the Father. I'm forgiven for everything. Heaven is my home. This world isn't my home. If you're a Christian, this world isn't your home. What this world offers you is not. You can take none of that with you when you die. But live for Him. Daily think about the cross. When I think about the cross, I can't feel unloved. When I think about the cross, I can't wallow in guilt. When I think about the cross, I see what sacrifice looks like, and I find selfishness really hard when I'm looking at the cross. But as soon as I stop looking at the cross, it's very easy to be selfish and very easy to live for myself. When I look at what Jesus did for me, then it changes my priorities and changes everything.
read the Bible daily, even if you don't get nothing from it, get a daily habit of reading the Bible. Since I became a Christian, I read the Bible 1 chapter a day, every day, on loop. Gets really hard in Leviticus, gets really hard in Jeremiah, like, but just read the Bible on loop. If you're struggling, go and jump in the Psalms for a bit, because that's buzzing. Like, the Psalms is like my favourite place in the world to swim.
Would you say, by and large, since you were converted, most days you have kept that regular habit?
In my teenage years, I can't remember a lot of it, but like, I would say in the last 20 years,
Yeah.
I would probably have read the Bible an average of 6.5 days a week. There's days I've missed, but generally speaking. And if you ask me how many of those days I've had an amazing encounter with God, maybe once a fortnight, I have an amazing encounter with God. But I know that if I didn't have that discipline, I wouldn't have that one day a fortnight where God really speaks something powerful to me. And that's where you're gonna like find, you're gonna hear God's voice, you're gonna discern His calling, His will for your life, and it's where you're gonna basically tune out from all the voices that the world is telling you how to live, and actually God's got a chance of telling you how He wants you to live, and He wants to affirm His love for you. So pray even though it's hard. Don't get disillusioned with church. You never find a perfect church. So in this one, I'm sure you're happy and content. But if you move on and go somewhere else, you might not find a church which is perfect. But be committed to a local church, because church matters. And loads of young people get fed up with church because it's not cool or it's inconsistent or whatever. It's really important to be part of church. That's my off-the-cuff advice.
Great.
Is that all right?
That's the question. Yeah.
And don't buy into silk ties. It's not gospel.
Anything else? Final question. Could I ask you to tell us, I mean, I know through skateboarding, etc., you really badly messed up your ankle, constant pain. I know that God intervened in quite a wonderful way fairly recently.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that? Oh, and something else just comes to mind as well. Go on, answer that one first.
Okay.
Please.
So when I got my ankle x-rayed, and I thought I broke it for the first time at 25, and they were like, no, you've broken this a lot of times. I was like, I didn't know. They said, your ankle's so messed up, it looks like, this is 25 years old now, they said, it looks like you've been playing professional football for 50 years, and you'll be doing well not to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 50. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But over the years, maybe the duration of my marriage, because I got married at 25, like my ankles got worse and worse and worse. I'd walk more and more with a limp. Sometimes the people think it's me doing a gangster limp, but it wasn't. It was just literally that I was in pain, and the pain over the last 5 to 10 years especially was like excruciating. Like I was regularly, I would say several times a week, I'd be crying with pain at some point, especially in the winter when it's cold and wet. The arthritis in my ankle was really bad, and my wife was really concerned about it. I was gutted because I got young kids. They wanted to play football with me, and it got to the point a couple of years ago where I just said, I can't even kick a football anymore. I can't kick with my left, and I can't swivel with my left and kick with my right. It just hurts too much. And so I was really kind of gutted about it, but I'd been prayed for so many times. I thought, well, this is it. Like, God just wants me to have this as a little reminder that I'm going to be in heaven one day. And I've got an X-ray I can show you on my phone later if you want, where my ankle is like 12 degrees out of joint, and there's bone fragments everywhere. And it's just like the guy said, I said to him, will I ever run again? He said, no, you'll never run again. Like, you know, it's just going to be progressively worse. Even if you have an operation, it's not going to do anything. So in May, I had to go to a Cardiff Church Leaders meeting. I didn't even want to go. I had to go for a friend who couldn't go, and I had to talk about Red Community at it. So I went. And just before we took communion, one of the church leaders said, I really feel we should have a prayer time for anybody that wants prayer for healing. And I've been prayed for so many times, I've given up asking for prayer, but as he said it, I felt the Lord give me a nudge. I said, Dai, ask for healing, ask for prayer rather. So I said, can I have prayer? And I went into the front, and a bunch of these pastors stuck their hands on my head and stuff, and this one dude who wasn't even a pastor got on his hands and knees, just put his hand on my ankle, and just, as they were all praying, he just prayed, pain be gone in Jesus' name. And I haven't had any pain in my ankle ever since, like that was in May. And so I can now jog, I can jump, I can train in the gym again, I can do deadlifts again, which we never could have done, or some squats beforehand. And God's been really kind to me. So I still got arthritis in it, but the stabbing pain, which is where the limb came from, where all the agony was coming from, that's gone. So God's been very gracious to me.
the other thing was, it's interesting following you on Twitter, and if I recommend Dai's Twitter feed. Most days you put something on.
Yeah, I'm trying to break at the moment.
Well, what strikes me is the honesty of it.
Mm.
And there's not enough honesty, I think, amongst Christians. We put on a front as to how wonderful and how glorious the Christian life is, which is true. But you share reality, which is helpful to me as a fellow sinner.
Yeah, amen.
So, although you're saved, you're not yet perfect, are you? You still struggle with sin?
Massively.
Yeah.
In fact, to discourage anybody who is a Christian, it doesn't get any easier. It gets harder. Like you get more aware of your sin, like,
And as you get older.
but you also get more. But the more aware you are of your sin, the more in love you are with Jesus. When you realize that He still loves you, and His grace is still available. So yeah, I struggle with, and some of the old sins, man. Like, you know, the same with the anger I used to have. Just takes one person driving like an idiot, and it's just like, oh, that's who I used to be. Sorry, Lord. You know what I mean? And it just comes up like, so I still struggle with all sorts. So yeah, but it's a battle with fighting. It's better to be fighting it and taking the odd lick, you know, to the face than like just giving up and saying, you know, the battle's not worth it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Dan. Well, look, I'll be around. We'll have pizza. Well, I don't know what we're having actually tonight. We are. Well, thank you. Thank you. So Dan will be around. If you've got any more individual questions you want to ask, then please do that.